Good evening. My name is Michelle Dudek, and I'm joining you all from New Hampshire. I have been working with LEGO Education as a teacher trainer since 2017. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. This is an absolute blast. Ask your questions, and you will learn a lot about Spike Prime and the units, and we're really excited to have you here.
Hi, and I'm Susan McGrath. I'm based in Lexington, Kentucky. I work full-time as a district-wide digital learning coach. And like Michelle, I am a LEGO education teacher trainer since 2019, my favorite side gig. And we are so excited that you're here with us tonight.
So we have several people joining us tonight, and we'd love to know where you're all from. So to start out and get comfortable using the chat function, if you want to throw in the chat where you're joining us from, we'd love to hear where everyone's from. And Amanda's going to give us a couple of shout outs and let us know how far and wide everyone is joining us.
Yeah, California seems to be presenting strongest so far. San Jose, LA, San Mateo, but we've also got a Colorado and a Minnesota.
Yay.
Very nice.
And a South Carolina. So this is going to be fun.
Okay, excellent. And I have another poll question for you. Your confidence level in finding and using lesson plans. So Amanda's going to throw in the chat this poll question. You can click on that and choose, I need lots of help, I'm nearly there, or I'm confident. So again, your confidence level in finding and using the lesson plans from LEGO Education.
All right, our audience tonight is covering all of it. So a couple that need lots of help, quite a few who are nearly there, and a couple that are confident and ready to go.
Okay, excellent. We hope we can answer all of your questions. Throw them in the chat area as we talk, and we will certainly get to all of those. Okay. Really briefly, our big goals, big questions for the evening. How can I prepare to teach LEGO education lessons? And what LEGO education resources are available to educators? So that's what we'll cover tonight. And as far as our agenda goes, we will provide an overview of LEGO education lessons. We will cover the unit and lesson design and structure. And we'll look at additional lessons and extensions. There is a ton of material there, so we'll point you in the right direction and cover some of those. We'll also go over student flow versus teacher lesson plan. And then we'll look at the additional resources from LEGO Education as well.
All right, so we are going to dive right in and start about what kind of an overview of what's available. All of the stuff that we're talking to you about tonight is absolutely free for anyone. So, and is constantly updated by LEGO Education. And Spike Prime, again, is just one of the solutions that is in the LEGO learning system. So everything we look at is free, it's updated, it's I think it's an amazing resource. I'm in year 30 of education, and I've seen a lot of money exchange hands for curriculum updates and online resources. This is completely free. And so great stuff that we're going to share with you tonight. So the Spike Prime curriculum is ready-made, standard-driven, standard-based lessons, and we have 5 units with 29 lessons, along with supplementary lessons and a lot of the resources Michelle just talked about that we're going to lead you to tonight. All are based on standards and standards supported, and so we're going to talk about those first. And then we're going to get into the basic structure of the units, and then we're going to just jump right into what a lesson plan looks like in the teacher resources. We also want to mention that each Spike Prime lesson is about 45 minutes long. So when we get into the website that we're going to go to first today, you're going to see these lesson cards that'll give you a little overview of what the lesson's about, and then you'll see what STEAM concepts they're covering, STEAM and engineering in this case, but most are 45 minutes long. That's not the case for all of our solutions. For example, Spike Essential, which is part of the learning system with Spike Prime, can be a little longer. So, but most of our Spike Prime lessons are 45 minutes. And then we still have, if you have at your schools, or in your districts, we still have lessons available to you for We Do 2.0, which is one of our retired solutions, and EV3 Mindstorms. Those aren't being updated. Those are retired, those two solutions, but we still have those lessons available. So you're going to see a lot tonight to support your journey with your students with LEGO Education. So like I mentioned, these are standard-based and standard-driven lessons. They're going to be listed in the lesson plan, and the ones that you're going to see are the ones that you see here on the slide. So you're going to see NGSS, those next generation science standards listed in lessons. You're going to see Common Core for our extensions to ELA, our language arts and literacy, and our math content. So you'll see extensions in many of the lessons that connect to those standards. You're going to see computer science lessons, computer science standards listed, and also our ISTE standards listed. If you're in a district or a school that doesn't use these standards, that's fine. These are the overall ones that we use in LEGO Education lessons, but it doesn't mean yours aren't covered. So if you're not seeing your standards here and want to know how your standards align, you need to contact your LEGO Education account manager for your state-specific standard alignments. But those can be made available to you. All right, so we're almost there, but this is one big part of what you're going to see today in our lesson. So Amanda's going to put up a poll for us about how you feel about the 5E model. If you know anything, and I think it's a yes and no question, Amanda, is that correct?
Correct. It's live now. So it's, are you familiar with the 5E model? Yes or no?
Thank you. So if you could just answer that for us, if you've heard of this model before. This is based on the biological science curriculum study from 1987. So
Do we, oh, interesting. All right, hold on. Action's happening on this poll. I'm going to give it a second.
okay.
All right, about 60-30 that are not familiar.
Okay, well, perfect, because we're going to go through it with you today. LEGO Education in their lessons has used in the past the 4C model. And if you know any of the 4Cs, why don't you throw those in the chat right now? What's your favorite 4C? Mine is collaboration, because I think that's so important with our students and something that they take with them as one of the 21st century skills. Amanda, do we have any takers for collaboration? Anybody with for their favorite?
Not yet, but I will say that I like collaboration too.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, so it was critical thinking and that creativity and communication. That was the model that we previously used. Not to say that the 4Cs don't apply here. But what we're seeing now, LEGO Education is using this 5E instructional model. It's a well-proven, widely used model since 1987 that is considered to be very effective for STEAM learning and based on the constructivism theory that learners learn best when they're active in that learning journey, and that problem solving and inquiry-based learning is important. So what you'll see in this graphic here is this iterative process of engagement that students have prior knowledge that's accessed, and then we engage them in some interest in the beginning of our lesson usually, but that can happen throughout the lesson. Then the exploration stage, which is they're participating in an activity, there's changes that happen, processes and skills that they identify, and that we facilitate that as teachers, and that we're questioning in that exploration phase and supporting them to, again, take that prior knowledge, generate those new ideas, have questions, and explore possibilities in that. You'll also see in that process then the explanation phase. I think this is huge and where reflection really comes into play, but this is where now they're going to explain their processes, demonstrate that understanding, and the things that are happening with the problem that they're presented. But I think sometimes this part gets pushed aside because we're trying to get through things. This is such an important that students are able to communicate, use vocabulary. It's a very critical part of that deeper understanding about what they're working on. And then the elaborating, so taking it to the next level, extending that conceptual understanding and providing those deeper and broader experiences, adding more information as the facilitator, and having additional activities, almost like differentiating at a higher level or again, taking it to that next level. And then the process continues, but all in that process, you have this evaluation where there's assessment, either students assessing their own work, like a self-assessment, peers assessing themselves, and then a teacher getting that formative assessment feedback as well. And that occurs in all of it. That was always implicit in the 4C model, but you can see it's smack dab in the middle of this process and occurs at every stage of that iterative process. So hopefully that helped give you a little explanation, but we're going to dive into the lesson so you can actually see what that looks like in an application here in just a moment. And again, based on that 5E instructional model. This is going to happen in all of our solutions for the LEGO learning system. So there are 5 unit plans, but more resources than this that we're going to talk about in a little bit for the Spike Prime, and they incorporate 5 learning promises that go along with those units, which learning promises are just what we want students to achieve in those units. So it starts with Invention Squad. Invention Squad is a great starting point after you've gotten your students used to the builds and the programming within the start. We're going to dive into that app shortly, and I'll show you where that lies. But Invention Squad is a great place. In fact, that's where we'd like you to start. Other places you could pick from would be Life Hacks or Kickstart a Business. But Invention Squad, especially the Hopper Race, which we're going to throw that lesson out for you to play around with shortly, is a wonderful starting point. All the lessons start with all the units start with beginner lessons. So they're going to increase in difficulty as they go on. And what they all have in common is that last lesson of the unit, which they're all numbered for you, you'll see in a moment. That last lesson is going to be an open-ended kind of project. And so we'll dive into that shortly. So we have Invention Squad for STEAM and engineering, Kickstart a Business, which is for coding, STEAM, and computer science. Great way for them to focus on entrepreneurship as well. Life Hacks. Kids know about hacking. This is great for, again, computer science, coding, and STEAM. Training trackers, which is our great to do with your physical education teachers, and wonderful to get kids up and moving. This is science and STEAM focused. There's 7 lessons there. And then we have our competition ready, which you could use with your own class, a robotics class, focused on missions, and we'll tie into First LEGO League missions as well. And First LEGO League puts out That's our basically first Lego League is a robotics I don't know, it's a competition every year that's new. So there's a brand new one every year. And we also have archive lessons as well that go along with the first Lego League missions. But this can help build up to those first Lego League missions for each year. So there are 9 lessons there. Also part of that competition ready is an expansion set that you can purchase outside of your regular Spike Prime sets. That can help with some of the lessons in there and with their first Lego League mission competitions. All right, we're going to get more into those lessons in just a little bit because there's much, much more. But what I want you to do is I just want you to jump in and hop around with our hopper lesson. And so Amanda's going to put a link in the chat. This is going to take you out to the Lego Education website. And specifically, it's going to take you to an actual lesson that's in there. There's no sign in, there's no nothing, it'll pop up and you'll be able to see it. So I want to give you a few minutes to just look around at that lesson before we really dive into it. And then we go back and look at the other lessons that are involved here. So I want you to look at that lesson structure, kind of just without me going through it. So Amanda's put that, I'm sure, in the chat now. See if you can find the lesson hook, the standards, math and language art extensions, coding tips, differentiation, the student materials, career links, the assessment ideas, and the Python programs. So we're going to let you go outside of our team's window right now, jump on to that link and hop around and see if you can find those things. And I'll kind of throw them out here so you can have a chance there. And you could also look for where you might see the 5 E's, since we just talked about those too.
And while everyone's kind of checking around, I did ask which unit they're most interested in. We got a lot of competition ready, excited people. So
yay!
That's awesome. And then a lot that are also excited about Invention Squad. So Hopper's part of that. And hopefully you're having fun poking around that lesson.
Yeah,
Someone did ask a question. I'm going to ask them to clarify a little bit and then we'll kick it to you.
okay, thank you. So there's a lot more in that lesson than what we're asking you to find. Besides the lesson hook, you might see that sometimes these lessons will have video just for teachers to view. The 5 E's will be there, like almost a script for teachers. I've printed the internet before, so I have printed those out when I've done lessons when I first got started with Spike Prime, because they're just very robust, complete lessons, lesson guides that really help you to become a facilitator. This is definitely a student learning environment where the students are the center. And so, but you as a facilitator definitely need to look at what are good questions? How do I offer those questions up that can really guide that learning and push them through that 5E process? And that's right there for you. So there's no guessing, although I'm sure there's many of you that could do that on your own, but it's wonderful to have that as a backup, especially if you are new to Spike Prime. All right, well, I am going to come out of this presentation real quick and get on the internet. I'm going to go back to Out of here. Okay, if you wouldn't mind in the chat, let us know anything you couldn't find there, or if you anything that you noticed there. If you couldn't find something, let us know in the chat. Or if you have any comments about what you saw in those lessons, definitely let us know in the chat right now.
So the question that I got was looking for more inspiration, and the community is a great place for that. So links there for everyone, but no other questions for you right now.
Okay, perfect. So I'm on education.lego.com. You got the direct link to that lesson, but when you go to legoeducation.com or education.lego.com, you're going to see a teach tab up at the top, and then you'll see a unit and lesson plans option. So if you click that unit and lesson plans option, it goes out to all of our units and lessons. So all of our products under here, you've got some great filters by subject, by grade, and by product. Specifically tonight, we're focusing on Spike Prime, but if you have questions about other solutions, just pop those in the chat, or we'll have some time at the end that we can talk about those. But here you've got everything from our Lego learning system all the way down to things for our preschool, but you'll also see in here, if you've ever worked with EV3 or We Do 2.0, these two are two of our retired solutions that are still supported with the lessons that were developed for those. There aren't any new updated lessons that are going to happen there, but those are still supported. So if you have those in your school, you can still use them. We definitely want students engaged in building and coding and using those 21st century skills, collaboration, communication, all of it. But having the Spike Prime is going to put them now into where they need to be for 2022 and beyond, and promote that coding as well. You'll also see in here that we have, if you're interested in Python, we have a whole section of lessons just devoted to Spike Prime with Python. You can see 64 lessons there. So if you click on that, select that box, you'll see all of the Spike Prime with Python options. And I'll mention how you can go in and use Python in Spike Prime if that's something that interests you, but tons of lessons in here to help with that. I'm going to unclick that and go to the Spike Prime set so you can see those units that are here. You're on the teacher end of things right now. You know, students, if they Googled Lego Education, could find this as well. We're going to talk about the difference between this and the student flow in the app in just a little bit. But you'll see our Invention Squad, again, a great place to start. And you'll see a little bit about it that we saw on that card earlier. So I'm going to click in Invention Squad and go to our Hopper race, which you'll see here. You'll also see the lessons are numbered. So this lesson 1 would be what would be the suggested place to start if you were to do the whole unit. But you'll also see in here like the beginner. So a great place to start is the Hopper race. I love it. You can do races. It talks about prototypes. It's a really great engaging. It's great for even adults when we do our training. We usually do the Hopper race. But you'll see the beginner mentioned there. So you don't have to start with help, but it's a good place to start is at this beginning. And actually, even before that, when you get into the app, I'll show you the actual start. But you'll see as you go on, they're going to get a little more advanced. And you'll see at the end here how we talked about the more open projects. So you've got the start in the app, which is a getting started. Great. That's a wonderful place if your students have had no experience. It's great for you to start there too. And it's a place that we went over in our first webinar. So if you missed that first webinar, we're going to have an encore to that at the end of this month. You could join us again for that webinar where we really dive into the app and the getting started and the lessons and how that works in terms of the programming canvas and the coding and the building. But there's a start. Then you'll see guided lessons. So guided lessons are really going to, they're going to pop up the coding. They're going to have the building instructions step by step for your students. Then you're going to have some open lessons that are towards the end of these units, lesson 5 or 6 or 8 or 9. They're going to be higher up the ladder here, more advanced, and they're going to have coding hints or inspiration building cards that show like what here's what a build could look like, but that's about it. So they're not going to have like the coding spelled out for them. They're in terms of like it's not going to show up on the canvas, and they're not going to have step-by-step building instructions. But by this point, that's where they should be. It should be more open-ended. They can use their creativity. They can tap into that prior knowledge to really then build something that's unique for them. And so it's amazing what you'll see students build once they've gone through and done lessons and gotten to these open-ended ones. This design for me is amazing. It teaches inclusion and empathy as well. So they're learning many skills that cover the gamut there. So that's a little bit about that progression of the unit. So when we get into that lesson, that's where you see the big stuff. So in our other Lego Learning lesson plans, you'll actually see the 5 E's up here. But for this, they're kind of embedded into that lesson plan. So this Ignite a discussion is really going to get them engaged and started into the lesson. So gives you some great questions, or show them the video that this is your teacher video up here, by the way, if you didn't see that, but you can show them a hook or a lesson. Here's a little video, have them develop questions with it as well. But you've got the questions here to facilitate and trigger that knowledge. Show them that video, then you'll see the building tips. So this is something you don't have to show them, but you can later on have a race against the teacher. These are some great ideas. In the actual lesson, you'll see the hopper on the side here. I'll show you those lessons in a minute, but it's something that you could have some of your class build a grasshopper and some of your students build the hopper, which is kind of like a frog. So really neat to see the differences there. Then you'll see coding tips. Then you'll see that differentiation come into play. And this is kind of that elaboration part of it, exploring around as well. That's can take you there. And then the assessment, you'll see that evaluation piece in there that we mentioned before. And then your extensions and career links. Over at the side, you'll see this blue little area here that the teacher supports kind of hide when you scroll down, but clicking on those drop downs, you've got everything that you could need, additional resources, the Python programs, there's the Grasshopper, and then your standards, which you guys seem to find all by yourself, so that's great. There's student worksheets here as well that they can look online, or you could have up on your projector screen for them to look at. So that is the lesson structure that we have in each of these lessons and each of the units. But there's more than just that in terms of what resources we have besides the community, which Amanda had that link for you. We have the PD platform, which is at pd.legoeducation.com, which we'll share that link with you. It's a great place to look at what other teachers are doing. It's a platform for you to go through and look at some competencies to really step up your game as a teacher bringing Lego education to their students. Great ideas in there, great help with like classroom management, with how to facilitate and how to question and so forth. So there's those 2 resources straight up. There's also activity briefs, which we have, which are kind of open-ended, that we'll send out to you in our follow-up. and lots of other resources I'm going to talk to you about shortly, in terms of more ways that you can bring this to more students. But one thing before that I want to show you really quickly is the difference between these lessons and the app. So I'm going to go to spike.legoeducation.com. I'm going to refresh this so you can see what it looks like at the beginning. This is our new web app, which is in beta, and it is no download required. There's no sign-in required. Again, absolutely free, and relatively new. Spike.legoeducation.com. I'm going to say Amanda's probably throwing that in the chat right now. When I go to Spike Prime, this is where I'm guiding my students when I want to start a lesson. So this is where they're going to go. You'll have your lesson plan there on your device, or if you printed it out, but this is where you would lead them. And this is the start that I was talking about. So if you've ever just started fresh with Spike Prime, this is where to go. So it's 6 steps where students learn about the platform itself and also the sensors that are involved in their builds. Wonderful place for you to start. They're all guided in terms of it's going to basically show you exactly what scratch blocks to move for coding. It's going to take you through a little lesson template, which I'll show you here in a minute with the hopper. It's great. And we spend more time with this in that first webinar again. So if you want to come to the encore of that, definitely at the end of the month, join us. Then you're going to see the unit plans. So I can access unit plans here or on the side here, but we still have our downloaded app. So the downloaded app has the units just like this. It's exactly the same, except when I go to units in the downloaded app, which you could put on any device, your Apple devices, Macintosh, your Chromebooks, your PCs, iPads. There's gonna be a little grayed out area here which says download. The web app version doesn't need that. So it has them access them right away, and they only have to hit that once they start using the actual unit. They don't have to download it again. So when I want students to go to the hopper, I'm going to have them come here. I'm going to tell them to download the Invention Squad unit, or I'm going to tell them to click units and go here. You'll see right here over at the side, it's going to direct you to lesson plans and teacher support. And your students do see this. They see exactly the same as you do. There isn't a separate, different app platform for teachers versus students. The only big difference here is that you have a teacher lesson plan and your students have the student app. So that's the student flow part. So they can access the actual lesson that we went to. If I can find it, there it is. They can access this. There's no reason for them to, but you don't want them here. This is your stuff. You want them here. So they're going to go down and access the lesson you want them to and hit start. This more section, I wouldn't tell them about unless you want to, but this is where you could go directly to that lesson plan. But this is more for teachers. It also has the video, so that's kind of nice too. If you wanted the students to watch the video, but I wouldn't direct them there. I would show the video first and then get into the lesson. So they'll hit start. And then this is their domain. This is the student flow domain where you can let them loose on the lesson. This is what their lesson structure looks like. It has, I'll just open that up there so you can see it has the video embedded in here. It's got the build instructions right here. When they're done with the build and they close that window, it will go to the programming and it will ask questions at the bottom. If I drag down, there we go. So you can see that, watch your hopper move, and it's going to give them hints for what they want you to do. So they'll connect, they'll play the program, and they'll then go further in that 5E process to elaborate and then engage and continue that iterative process. So this is what the student flow looks like compared to what you see, which is this. And where, you know, you are the facilitator. This is student centered. They're going through. It's very low floor, high ceiling, where you can reach them where they're at with differentiation tips and so forth. So it's a wonderful resource in terms of your teacher resource, and then also what you see in that app. I keep clicking on the wrong stuff. So, but definitely, I think the Hopper in that Invention Squad, a great place to start with your students after you've actually done this getting started with them. Okay. But again, plenty more where that came from, all free. Your competition ready is here. We even have some archived competition ready Lego League missions that you can go to that are in our that are on the teacher side of things. And this is the guided mission. You can see this is from 21-22. But these advanced lessons here actually need the expansion kit or set, excuse me, for Spike Prime. So those, just to keep that in mind, you can talk to your account manager if you have, if you're interested in purchasing some of those. Okay, so I've said a lot, but we still have some more. Do we have any questions, Amanda, before I get into a few more resources and we get ready for wrap up?
No questions for you. There was one that we're helping with on the PD site, so that one's done in chat. I think we're ready for you to keep going, showing us what we got.
Okay. So a couple of extra resources. I mentioned that we have activity briefs, which I think I had over here. These are open-ended when your students are comfortable with the coding and the building. These are open-ended activities that I like to call placemats. You might see them as placemats too. But these are, I'll click on one so you can see what it looks like. These are really just fun, open-ended, where your students can get really creative, and they're based on a collaboration with Tufts Center for Engineering Education and Outreach. They have some wonderful resources as well, but it gives you, this is basically the template, which you'll see for those activity briefs. I love these. We have them for Spike Prime right now, but we're always adding. The community is a great place to go, to that community link, join our community, because teachers are sharing out briefs that they've made. Tufts is always adding to theirs, but it gives you a kind of a problem to work on, and then gives you some example ideas, some coding ideas, and then a challenge. And that's it. Like, your students can think like an engineer or an artist. This one is an alien. So that's great. So those are activity briefs. And in our follow-up email, we'll send you all of these links. So you can just look at them right now, and then you'll have them in your email. Other things we have, I think Amanda's got these links for you, is we have summer camps and programming units that you, again, have at your disposal. I can't go. Camps. There we go. Embark, Spike Essentials, Bricky Motion. Here we go. At the bottom there for grade 6 through 12. Here we've got curriculum, basically for introductory and advanced, that you could use for summer camps for sure, but you could use for your STEAM classes. You could use for a STEM lab, special units, like if you have specials that come in, or you have extension classes, after school programs. They're wonderful for that. And it's literally like a whole program. This one's called Let the Games Begin. And it's got a unit overview. It's got the days laid out for you there, and what you need to do prior, what you need. There's your big question. So it just gives you a basic overview by time and what they're going to need. And you can, tweak this for however however you want to use it in your schools, but absolutely free. I mean, the free part is amazing to me. But and they're always updating. Our lessons are getting updated, units are getting updated. We just added some science lessons in our Brick Motion. It's wonderful. The amount of things that are being added to it. And you have access to that basically forever. The advanced units are here as well. This is called Let's Compete. These are really great for getting students up and moving and getting into the engineering design process and computer science. But they're going to have team building activities in there and computer science activities, but really just movement as well. And speaking of movement, we've got lots of lessons that go with the World Cup coming up. And that you could incorporate, and also some space lessons. Artemis is going to be going up one of these days. I'm very excited. Got my space background, but we've got some ones you could tie into that as well. So this is the advanced programs. And if that wasn't enough, Amanda's going to put one more link in there to our computer science course guides. And let's see if I found those. I got my little presenter thing. We'll get out of the way here. See if I can find. I'm going to close. There we go. Games begin. Maybe it's in here. Yep, I found it. These are computer science course guides. So if you wanted to teach Python programming, we have 2 courses in that that you can look at, and a physical computing science one, which I'm going to click on just for a really quick overview of that one. And again, provides you with everything that you would need. This one has career lessons and a major project at the end where they'll work collaboratively, all again based on standards, standard-based alignments, but just tons of things to get them into coding, and then this accumulating project that they'll work on that ties into real life STEM and STEAM concepts that they can relate to. So that's some computer science course guides. And then with the Python, if you're interested in that, lastly, I'll show you before we kind of review that, the last thing to kind of look at is you can switch from this Scratch-based word block programming to Python. Our icon blocks are used mostly in Spike Essential, but you can use the word blocks and Python. If I click on Python, I can hit create, and now I'm on a Python-based platform. And we have the Python programs inside the teacher lesson plan that you can look at. So if you have some students that are kind of ahead of your other students, or if you're teaching Python at your school as part of your computer science curriculum or your technology courses, this is a great place. This is a great thing to use for that. Whew, so that's a lot. There's a lot going on. And then we've got one more resource, which is our hybrid resources, which if you're in a hybrid learning environment, we actually have what are called personal learning kits that you can purchase as a set with Spike or Brick Motion. There's these personal learning kits that are kind of an extension used to facilitate kind of if students had to take them home, if you had students working in that hybrid environment that go along with that. And we have lessons in every not every, excuse me. We have lessons that will have a little yellow hybrid label, and that in that teacher supports, you'll see a hybrid lesson there. And so it's just an extension piece to something they could take home to do if you had a situation like that. All right, so that, and we did that. So we've got those 5 lessons or 5 units the Invention Squad, Kickstart a Business, Life Hacks, the Competition Ready, and Training Trackers. Great to start with Invention Squad. You've got your teacher supports now through the teacher lessons in the education website. And then you've got your student flow section in the app, web app or downloaded app. And then we have all of these other resources that we are going to share with you in a follow-up email as well, that you have always at your disposal. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to finish us off today.
Thanks, Susan. Let's take a minute to check in with our participants. And how are you feeling at this point? Are you feeling more comfortable, more confident with navigating through the lessons and what resources and materials LEGO Education has to offer? Are there any burning questions that we can answer at this point? And Amanda, I'm going to let you.
Yeah, people are responding to a poll right now, so
Great.
Just waiting for a few more responses. No questions yet.
Okay.
There is someone who asked about more webinars. We'll cover some other ones. It was specifically about Foundations of Physical Computing course. That's on the professional development website, and I'll drop a link to that, but not a specific webinar for it. All right, and our poll. Here's how we're feeling. Ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Majority can't wait. They're very excited.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent. Good. Well, that's great news because it's our hope that at this point, it's your turn. We're ready for you to dive in and plan and run your first lesson. So we'd like you to review the lessons from the teacher resources or the Spike app and choose one that interests you or that's in a place that your students and your curriculum is at. Prepare the lesson by reviewing the teacher resources and going through the activity yourself. It's a really big help to first just do it on your own and kind of get that experience and build that confidence by going through the entire lesson as if you were both the student and the teacher on your own. And then find yourself a group of students, friends, family members, whomever you can convince to work with you and run your first lesson. And then we would love to see you at session number 3, which is next month, and come with your big wins. We want to hear some feedback from you and any questions or challenges that you faced, and we can address those and get you to be feeling even more confident in using all of these resources. So that's the next step. If you are feeling like you want more facilitated training or coaching, we absolutely offer that. You can go to this link. It'll also be thrown in the chat, and you can request some facilitated training and or coaching for you and your school. And then this webinar and this whole series is being run by our customer success team. Great part of our organization, and we strongly encourage you to sign up for the LEGO Education Customer Success Program by visiting this link. Again, it'll be emailed out to you in the resources page, but also thrown in the chat area. And when you sign up for this program, you will receive monthly newsletters full of different community events, resources for your classroom, so continuing to highlight some of the resources available, different ideas on how to use the available resources, so some of those practical elements, and a lot of support for you on your journey using the LEGO Education solutions and all of the resources that we have available for you. So definitely take a minute, sign up for that, and get those monthly newsletters. And how are we feeling? Any final questions before we give you the follow-up dates?
We answered one in the chat. It was a question on what is a good amount of time to allot per lesson. We're recommending 45, but if there's anything you'd like to build on that, that would be great.
45 is kind of the average amount. If you're planning on doing an extension at all, because there are those math and language arts extensions, obviously plan some extra time for that, but 45 minutes is a good starting point, a general time allotment for each of the lessons. Susan, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree. I would say just, we've talked about in our previous webinar that classroom management, just remembering that there's time to, having a routine there and having procedures, or having your students develop those together with you for storage of kits and lost and found pieces, and taking down builds. Like part of that, you have a 45-minute lesson, but part of that is going to have to be getting their kits out, getting the app set up, then taking a build apart, just keeping in mind that there are some just little extra things to remember when you're doing a lesson. I think that would be my advice. But yeah, 45 is a great average for how long those lessons would take.
Great. And very importantly, we have an encore presentation of the very first webinar that we ran, and that will be happening on Tuesday, September 27th. And the main idea there is to prepare to teach with Spike Prime. So in that webinar, we cover all of the very basics, from opening your solutions, organization. We do a lot with classroom management and throwing some ideas out around that. And then we take a look at the web app versus the downloadable app. So that's a really important, if you're still a little unsure about those two options and which one might be best for you in your classroom, definitely come to that first webinar. We'll do a lot on that and just those, like I said, basics and getting started. So encore presentation of webinar 1 on Tuesday, September 27th. And webinar number 3 will be on Thursday, October 13th. And this is where we'll focus on building your own professional learning network. So we really hope to see you at both of those. And if you do come to webinar 3, again, bring those questions, those big wins from your experience using a lesson or even some lessons between now and then. Okay. Should you have any questions between now and when you hang out with us again, absolutely contact us by email at success@lego.com, and they will get right back to you and take care of your questions. And then finally, before we say goodbye, please follow us on these various socials. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can stay up to date on news and happenings, and the webinars are posted there. So please follow us and join us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here tonight.